Hello everyone, my name is Madelaine Verbeek, and today I will be presenting Bridging the Gap, the creation of a consolidated species index for the comprehensive evaluation of conservation applications. I am a fellow with Conservation X Labs, a company that is finding solutions to end the extinction crisis. One of these solutions is the index that I am presenting to you today. My fellowship encompassed the evaluation of public data associated with conservation statuses. Working alongside Misa Winters, we found that there are many different types of data that are associated with listing a species within the extinction risk category. However, it is hard to know which data is the most important and should be focused on for species evaluation as a whole and future conservation efforts. This was where we noticed a need for an index which would take all of the publicly available data and consolidate it into one location for the ease of evaluation of a species. Evaluation of conservation risk and efforts was of course of interest, but a general centralized location for all information associated with an entire taxa proved to bring some interesting insights to the table. There are multiple databases that house a myriad of critically important information that is key in conservation assessments. Some of the most important databases that we use to create our index are listed on this slide, though this is not an exhaustive list of the possible databases that can be used in the future. We have found that no single database housed all of the information available about a taxa, and we were curious to see what all of these insights looked like when they were combined all together in one space. My hope with this index is to create a more complete picture of a species and what it needs to have in order to be properly conserved. All of the information that are housed within these databases are phenomenal, but since they are all independently housed, it can be difficult to take the information together and understand that complete picture. This index will also help to highlight gaps within the databases, within the data itself, and the knowledge that needs to be filled in. This may help to incentivize those who can contribute to these public databases, and again, make a better picture of the species that needs conservation. As mentioned before, we evaluated 5 specific databases. Each database had unique information that is publicly available, which is a key factor that was looked at during this initial assessment. We began with the IUCN Red List and mined data for every tetrapod, or 4-limbed animal. We looked at basic information such as taxonomic order. Then we moved on to data that was a bit more complex, synonyms, and eventually the minutiae that is threat assessments and population trends. This all gave us a better understanding of extinction risk and conservation ratings. We then considered policy and protection of at-risk species. For this, we looked at CITES and EDGE. Both databases highlighted each species' uniqueness. For CITES, it is how that species is uniquely used and protected. For EDGE, it's their unique evolutionary distinction. Finally, we decided to evaluate the genetic material as another means of a conservation assessment. If you are interested in this part of the talk, please see Misa Winters' presentation entitled Minding the Gap. It is within this same presentation block. As we progressed with the index creation, We also expanded our interests into other phyla and kingdoms. We wanted to look past a species by species evaluation basis. Our complete goal was to find avenues and opportunities for conservation application. There's a lot of information here, so we think that it is best to highlight the power of the index by discussing a well-known charismatic animal that we all think of when we think of Africa. There are 4 endemic zebra to Africa. Beyond being charismatic, they also have other more significant values, such as those seen on this slide. Identification of threats to a species is a key factor in species extinction categorization. It also provided invaluable insight into future concerns that a species might face. Here we see that zebra is only under certain specific stressors compared to the rest of Mammalia. We are beginning to identify targets that may be helpful for future efforts. Working towards moderating agricultural impacts may have significantly more influence on protecting the zebra compared to eliminating invasive species. Here's a brief look at our master index. You can see that we have combined information from all of the databases mentioned before. Some of the highlights include common names that was pulled from IUCN. Of course, all of the phyla, class, taxonomic information. Conservation that is needed to improve the species status. We have the genetic information, our CITES information, and last but not least, our EDGE scores. From the master index, I have pulled out all of the information that I believe will be of most interest for today's presentation. Here are our 4 zebras again, but I have highlighted 2 that are worth looking at a bit more. The first is the African wild ass, a species that is critically endangered and has rapidly decreasing population trend. We can predict, without the rest of the information on this slide, that this is a species in dire need of significant and swift conservation efforts. Now consider the plains zebra, listed as near threatened, so not in as much peril as the wild ass, but it's not listed within the CITES appendix at all, even though it exhibits the same decreasing population trend. There is predictable loss for both of these species, and there are no vouchered records within bold for either one. Both of these species are at extinction risk, but both of them are missing records that could influence the status listings. Of all of the zebras here, all of them face the same threats shown earlier in the presentation, but which threats are they facing individually? Do these threats have impacts on their status evaluation or on their population trend evaluations? Are there trends that are not seen simply because we are only looking at one category at a time? Is the plains zebra on the same path as the wild ass, since it's facing the same threats and has the same decreasing population trend? What do we do from here? This index is a master at painting a whole picture. There's value in comprehensive evaluations, and what we do from here is twofold. First, we are now able to identify gaps within the public knowledge, which will help in directing future research efforts. Second, we use the currently available information to begin predicting future difficulties that species may face. The index began as an evaluation of information that was publicly available, but quickly became a tool which would provide the viewer enough understanding in order to foresee conservation complications, and not just address current crises, that are past the brink. We know that conservation is working, but it is not working for all species. There is also no one metric that covers all of the nuances that goes into a species conservation risk. We need a comprehensive evaluation so that we can better assess species at every single level and create more effective conservation plans. This is a call to action. The databases discussed today, and subsequently our index, are only as good as the data entered in. We need to focus on the value of concurrence within the conservation sector and incentivize the contribution of information to the public realm. We need a global view, and we need metadata as much as basic data when uploading to these databases. We also need comprehensive and appropriate information that can be mined and shared, making the information universally usable. Even for those that are interested but don't have a significant scientific background. Conservation is a collaborative effort which entire species rely on. Many thanks to Misa Winters for her trust in me as I worked on this project with her, as well as her unflinching support when I needed it the most. Thanks also to Rachel Martin and the Thylacine team for helping out along the way. And of course, thanks to you for listening in. Feel free to reach out if you have any questions or if you would like to learn more about the project.